If there was one thing that could have ended my business 17 years ago, it would be because of the numbers. I hate accounting, taxes, W-9s, W-2s, WD-40s, spreadsheets, all of that stuff. And I hate it mostly because I'm afraid of it. I'm just not great with numbers. If this sounds familiar, or if you're so new in your business that it's not even on your radar yet, you need Core Group. Core Group can help you create financial systems and tax strategies that you need so you can grow profitably, and they've been doing this for over 20 years. They become an extension of your team so that you can stay in your lane of expertise and then lean on them to help guide you along the way. For me, having a team of experts in my corner to help keep track of our books and just to make sure that we're budgeting for taxes appropriately, to have an actual strategy for our taxes and our accounting is priceless. And it allows me to sleep easier at night, knowing that I don't have to be an expert in that arena. If you want to avoid surprises in your video business, and you want experienced help building a plan for the future that you want, both professionally and personally, head over to studiosherpas.com/core for more information. And when you're ready to set up a free consult with them, make sure to mention Studio Sherpas for a special discount too. Got your back. Get more out of your accountant. Go to studiosherpas.com/core. What's up, friend? Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast. My name is Ryan Koral from Studio Sherpas, and I have the pleasure of being your host. This episode is the final episode of 2021, and I'm excited to share things that I've learned in my video business this year. A lot has happened. This has been... The last year was an interesting year. This year has been an interesting year. And what I want to do is share, kind of like give you, if you're brand new to the show, or you're just kind of like, I have no idea what Ryan does outside of the podcast here. I'm going to talk about my production business and just kind of give you an overview of how we're operating today, and then talk through some of the big things that we learned, because I feel like in my business, hearing other people's successes, failures, those things have helped me learn faster, not repeat mistakes that might be, glaringly obvious to somebody else. And hopefully that will be the case for you today. Hopefully you'll take some things away to say like, wow, I never want to do that thing that Ryan did there. First, I'm going to say that no matter where you're at in your video business journey, we're all over the map. I've met so many of you over the years, and some people are brand new to the business. Some people have been doing this work for 20 or more years. And, at whatever part of the journey you're at, there's always something more to learn. There's always, because the industry changes, the technology changes. There's nobody that has it all figured out. They might have it figured out for that specific moment in time. But what I've learned is that you've got to be constantly educating yourself and trying to understand, what are the trends? What are people, what do they want? What do they need? What do they need that they don't, or what might they want that they don't even know that they want? It's kind of like when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone. None of us knew that we needed that or knew that we wanted that. But as soon as we saw it, we were like, oh my gosh, I got to have that. So just a word of encouragement for all of us. I'm sure that there are videography companies out there or production companies out there that we see that we're like, oh man, they've got it all figured out. And I would say that that's not true. And if you were to ask them if they've got it all figured out, they would laugh in your face, mostly because they would say, of course not. There's so much more we could be doing better. There's so much more that we want to do better. And it's not even just becoming the best of the best of the best. It's more just not being completely satisfied with your craft and the process. And we could always use more time and always make a shot better, always make an edit better. So at some point, it's just a matter of accepting where you're at and trying to figure out where is it that you want to be, and then charting that trail for how you get there. So Let me just share briefly about our production studio. Our production studio is called Tell Studios. We are based north of Detroit, about 45 minutes, and I've been running this production company for 17 years and have seen a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Have learned so much. I started as a solopreneur. I started hiring friends to help shoot and to help edit, and then hired my first employee, I think, a couple of years into business. And that was really, like, for me, like, I love working with other people. Like, I never started my business with the intent of like wanting to just do it by myself, because early on I was sharing my work, trying to get feedback from other people, and saw that it was just way more fun to create collectively with other people. And I'm extroverted personality, so kind of those two things paired together, I'm like, I never really want to, the bulk of my work, I don't want it to be by myself. So that just kind of created that trend of like, okay, well, what are the positions that we would want to hire? I read a book called The E-Myth. If you've never read The E-Myth Revisited, I think it's called now, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. That was the first business book I had ever read. I read it shortly before I even started my business, because I was helping a friend with getting his business off the ground. And I just saw that, oh, like, for a business, like, you need to have, there's different parts. There's like the operations, like the actual like doing of the work. There's the finance, accounts receivable, payable, all this, like, taxes and stuff. And then there's sales and marketing. So to see those three buckets help my brain understand, like, okay, so I've got to be doing sales and marketing, and obviously I've got to be doing, shooting and the editing. And then there's all this other stuff over here related to finance that if I can't do it, I've got to find somebody else that can do it. So it helped kind of starting a business from the very beginning, knowing that I couldn't do all of the things, and I didn't want to do all of the things. And even over the years, there's this like constant, like, well, I could save, this much money if I just did this part myself, if I did this thing myself. And the overtone or undertone of this episode is the power of delegation, and the power in realizing that, like, yes, you can do all of the things. As business owners, we take on what's called Superman syndrome, where we just think we can do all of the things, or that we have to do all of the things, because we learn how to do all of the things. And so that just becomes our pattern, and we fall into that and just assume that for a long, long time. And I just want to say from the start here, you should really challenge that feeling of like, well, I can save money if I just do this myself. Like my website, I figured out how to do that on my own. Photoshop, I figured out how to, for all of the DVD designs. And back in the day when we were producing videos, we would create DVDs. That's when I got into this work. Is we weren't shipping stuff to clients on tapes or anything like that. The final product was a DVD. And I've shared the story before, when I learned how to, or when I taught somebody else how to burn and like print our DVDs and all that stuff, and I delegated that part of my job. That was like the best thing in the world, because I would design it in Photoshop. I had this really nice template. We were like a high-end luxury wedding film company back in the day, and so we wanted like all of the touch points to be beautiful and elegant and all that stuff. And so I had this really nice Photoshop template, and we'd have to go in and we'd replace the name, replace the date, and then we'd have to do the same thing with the disc. And I had this DVD disc printer. And, when you'd finish a project in Final Cut Pro, you'd have to render it, export it, compress it, and then put it into DVD Studio Pro, and transcoding and all of that stuff, and then finally burning to DVD. And then after burning it to the DVD, then you would print onto the DVD. If any of those, oh man, if any of those steps went wrong, you'd have to start way back over. Or if you spelled something wrong on the video, like, if we had the couple's name or we put the date on the actual video, we'd have to go back and fix that. If we had made a typo in Photoshop for the DVD cover, or for the DVD itself, or if the ink ran out of the printer. I mean, there was just so many ways that this could go wrong. And I just think like today, if we were printing, exporting DVDs and all that stuff, we would use some kind of a service. I would definitely be hiring that because granted, I learned how to do Photoshop. I learned how to use DVD Compressor, I think it was called, and DVD Studio Pro, and like all of these softwares. Like I just learned how to, because you just figure it out. When you're an entrepreneur, that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur is you just commit to doing it. You figure it out, you get it done, and you feel a sense of accomplishment. But when you look at, well, how am I using my time? I would spend hours and hours inside of DVD Studio Pro and inside of like recreating these DVDs. And this was not even creative work. The template was made. So I'm just like plugging things in and, I'm thinking about it now and it just stresses me out a little bit to think about all the not creative work that I was doing and all the time that was just getting sucked out of me and all the life that was getting sucked out of me because I was doing all of this administrative work that somebody else would have been happy to do for 10 or 15 or 20 bucks an hour. And, but I would have said like, no. Like, I'm not going to pay somebody 20 bucks an hour. Like, I've already got the template. Like, I can just plug it in and I can do it real quick. And my wife and I will be watching a movie on Friday night and I'll just run upstairs to export really quick. And then, I'll come back downstairs and then like, an hour later, I'll go back upstairs and start burning really quick. And so, but that was my life. I was like, well, I'm saving money. Like, I'm not going to pay somebody else to do that. It takes a long time. It was taking a long time for me. And what I forgot was that the things that I brought to the table that were the most valuable was my creative eye, was being on set and shooting and creating an experience for our clients. And that was the most valuable thing. So if I wasn't doing that, I wasn't making the biggest contribution to my business that I could be making. So that was a hard learning experience. But when I delegated that for the first time, it was absolutely beautiful. So, fast forward a bunch of years, we filmed weddings for a long time. That was kind of our bread and butter. That's what we were known for. Our brand was called Epic Motion, and it was so fun. And I love shooting weddings. I might shoot one a year these days. If they were 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I would do them all the time. I just love being with families. I love creating these like special legacy pieces that they're going to be able to have. I have couples from, almost 20 years ago that are like, man, we still watch we watch our videos now with our kids and they love watching it. And I'm just like, man, that is really cool. Well, in 2012, we were doing a little bit more corporate work here and there and eventually just said, you know what, we need to create a separate brand because I had people in the creative world that were working at agencies that wanted to work with us, but they're like, dude, we can't tell our creative director, we can't tell our team that you're a wedding videographer. Like that's just not going to fly. The way things were back then, like, wedding videographers were just known as having like big bright lights, massive cameras, interviewing people, on the dance floor, and just like the most awkward person you can think of. That's what the wedding videographer was considered. And I was like, that is not us. That's not our style. We're like, cinematic and we're, fly on the wall, but like, engaged documentary style, like this whole, and it didn't matter. So we said, well, what's going to be smarter for our business as my wife and I were having kids and we started having bigger dreams and goals for our family. We said, you know what, I don't want to work every Saturday. I just can't do that. And then I just started thinking about, well, what about when I'm 40? I'm 44 now, or I'm 50, or I'm 60. I'm like, I'm not going to lug around all this gear. And it's hard work. Like when we would work a long wedding day, that was really hard work. So I wanted to think like, well, what can we do that's not going to require me lugging stuff around or, hustling on a Saturday? And it was just like, man, if we did corporate video, if we got into that market, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then also my name isn't tied to this new brand. When it came to weddings, I had such a deep network of photographers and coordinators and hotel people, and everybody was like, oh yeah, Ryan, we met this couple, like we're sending them to you. And so everybody would want me, and my name was attached to the brand, even though it wasn't called Ryan Koral Films, it was Epic Motion. But still, it was like Epic Motion with Ryan Koral. They're like, well, we got to have Ryan. And so transitioning out of that, trying to get away from like people, thinking that they had to have me or they weren't going to get a great product. When we created our corporate brand, which today is called Tell Studios, it became a lot easier to say, you know what, like I'm just going to try to build this and not attach myself. I'll do the sales, but like make it very clear from the beginning that, you know, my team, that's who shoots, that's who edits, that's who like, you know, really takes these projects and makes them happen. So be glad that I'm not the one with a camera in hand. That's really how I had to position this. And so, you know, for the last almost decade, we've built this corporate brand and have had awesome, incredible opportunities. So many of our wedding clients, you know, own businesses and have been able to give us really cool opportunities with their business or their parents' business or, you know, people in their bridal party and whatever. And then just doing this work in this community for such a long time has helped create a reputation for us. So, a lot of the things that I was afraid of, you know, 15 years ago when I was looking at the future of what my work was going to look like, I'm not in the center. I'm not the one, like people aren't calling Tell Studios, even as most people don't even know my name. And that's the fact. I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to do what I feel like is my greatest contribution, which is like building relationships and helping people, helping understand what they need and trying to figure out if the video that we can do can be helpful for them. So all of that, you know, fast forward today, we have this really cool studio in Lake Orion, which is a small town kind of near where the Detroit Pistons used to play. That building has since been demolished this past year, completely torn down, which is so sad. But the Pistons now play in downtown Detroit, so that's great for them. And you know, we have 5,800 square feet. We have this really cool production part of our studio with a garage door, and I think it's about 2,000 square feet. We've got a lighting grid, all it just like when I used to dream about like what I would want our studio to be like. This is that place. Really thankful for that. I've got 2 full-time filmmakers. I've got a full-time operations person. We've got a part-time project manager. And then we've got a couple of virtual assistants. And then, you know, all of the, you know, other things that we need on an ongoing basis, a web designer, developer, copywriter. We have these people kind of at our fingertips or at our disposal, or however you say that, for when it's like, hey, we need a refresh on our landing page, or we need some emails written, or, you know, we're going to do a new marketing campaign. We have people that can do the things when we need them. So there's not this feeling of like, man, I would love to love to be creating like blog posts and social media campaigns or whatever. But I can't afford a full-time social media person. That would just be so much money. And so we're more strategic today, saying like, okay, if that's something that we need, like let's just hire somebody on a per project basis, and that's been very, very helpful for us. So some of the wins, I just want to share some of the things that have gone right this year, and then talk about some of the mistakes that I made, because there are some pretty big ones, and then really just kind of give you some ideas on things that you could do going into next year, hopefully to help you from doing the same, making the same mistakes that I made. In 2021, we've done this yearly, we call it our annual planning session. And we use EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system, to build this is like the framework that we use for running our business. If you're not familiar with it, there's a book called Traction, another book called Rocket Fuel, that kind of talk about what EOS is and gives you some tools on how to run your business. So for the past 5 years, we've done this annual planning event where we have a 10-year target. So like these 10-year, what do we want our work to look like and life to look like in 10 years. And then we have a 3-year goal, list of 3-year goals. And then we have, we refresh our 1-year goals to make sure that we're getting closer to our 3-year. And then we create what are called rocks, which are our 90-day goals. So we'll create first quarter rocks that will help us achieve our 1-year goals. So we did this planning session at the beginning of the year. it was myself and my operations director, and then our EOS consultant. And we, obviously have big goals. We have big dreams of things that we wanted to do. And I love doing that annual planning session because it really does give us a roadmap for the year. Without having that, we would just be stuck in the day-to-day, shooting whatever project comes in, trying to, what can we do? And there's no real clear guidance. And then even the 1 year is based on that 3 year. So we can look and see like, hey, will our 1 year goals help us get, because our 3 year goals are pretty lofty, but they're not like this insane, like, oh, we want to be a $15 million, company. That's what our dream is. And it's like, that's not going to happen in 3 years. And I'm eternal optimist and like love dreaming. But I know that with the way that things are going today, it would take a really long time, or we'd have to build the kind of business that I don't even want that could make $15 million a year. So creating these like realistic goals, and then being able to work backwards from there. I love doing that. Not another big thing. That is one success for us is like sticking to this annual planning thing. We also switched our project management. We've been using Basecamp forever. We realized that we had we needed a little bit more attention to detail with our project management software, and Basecamp, amazing software, very simple, very easy to use. But we moved to Asana just because there were a couple of we just needed more detail and a little bit more flexibility with the templates that we were creating. So that was a big move for us, and has proven thus far to have been a pretty smart move for us. I would never recommend switching your project management software just because you're like, well, Ryan says that, so it must be great. The best project management software is the one that you actually use. So regardless, there's always something that one has that the other one doesn't, and you're going to switch and then realize like, oh, this is pretty good here and here, but we wish that it had, X, Y, and Z. So that is always the case. We've tried lots of just all of the things. And what we've realized is that as long as we have a good process, we can plug that into. If we can't plug it into a project management software, then it's not for us. But if we're able to plug it in the way that we need to, then it will work for us. So don't just think that it's broken and that you should switch to Asana because that's what Ryan uses. You really need to look at your processes and figure out maybe there's something wrong with our process, and that's why it's not working. Projects aren't being delivered on time, or we keep getting lost or stuck inside of our processes or our project management software. This year, we did more video blueprint methods or more video blueprint workshops than we ever have before, which is very exciting. You've heard me talk about the video blueprint method. This is the workshop that we host for our clients that call us and want a video. Instead of us jumping into quoting out that job and jumping into production, we do, which essentially is like it's a pre-production workshop, and it's a little more involved than what we'd ever done with pre-production before, where we sit down with the stakeholders of the project and we really try to identify what are the goals, like what are they after, what do they want, what is success, and then we take them through our storytelling process or our video making process, and then we create this blueprint for them. And it's a $2,500 workshop. It's totally refundable. Like if they don't like the workshop the day of, we'll give them their money back. So it's little risk, and we've never had a money back guarantee on anything before. Like we would never shoot a video for somebody and say, hey, if you don't like it, then we'll give you your money back. That's the worst idea ever. So if you're doing that, I highly recommend you stop doing that. There's just way too much objectivity. Is that the way you say that? Or subjective? I don't know. It's one of those where, for somebody to say like, we don't really like it. Like I returned my shake at Shake Shack because my daughter was like, I don't like this. Like, no big deal. I ask him for another shake. There's no questions. But when you invest, dozens of hours or hundreds of hours or, just in shooting and editing and all this stuff, and for somebody to say like, no, don't like it. It's like, wait. So for us doing this workshop, we're investing 2 hours of our time. So if somebody at the end of the workshop was like, yeah, this wasn't good, that's fine. Then we need to do a better job of either vetting our, these potential projects or do a better job in our workshop. So it was one or the other. And we've never had anybody ask for their money back, but it is reassuring for people to realize who have never worked with us, like, okay, here's an opportunity for us to work with these guys at a fraction of the cost of what this project is going to be. If the project is only a $5,000 or $7,000 project, we don't even recommend doing a workshop. At that point, like it should be a very simple, straightforward job for us. But when the job is over $10,000, that's when we're kind of recommending, hey, you're going to want to do this workshop if you've never done video before, if you need a video partner, if you need some of our brain expertise, this is going to be the smarter way to do that. So super grateful that we've kind of I feel like we're in this rhythm of doing these workshops, being able to sell these workshops, and then people book production after that. We're creating the proposal. They're paying us to create the proposal with the blueprint that we make. So that's really exciting for us. This is our second biggest revenue generating year ever. So like last year was the worst, and this was our second best year. So, and I'm not sharing this stuff to brag. Like really, like there's a part of me that wants, if you're listening, you might be like, okay, like I have a videography business, I've got some employees, or maybe I'm new, and like why should I listen to this guy? I've been doing this work for a little over 17 years. And I just want you to know that like Studio Sherpas, the podcast, like this is a very small portion of my time and energy goes into this brand and into this business. I would love for it to be more. Like that's one of my longer term goals, is to be able to do this work more. But I'm in the trenches of owning and running a video business, and to be able to say like, hey, we're doing, we're selling these workshops, we're booking more jobs, we're booking bigger jobs, we're more profitable on our jobs, that we're more efficient on our jobs. Our accountant the other day said, we've got higher revenue and higher profit than most years ever because we've got lower payroll. So we figured out how to, with less people, be more efficient, which like if you're looking at a chart or something like that, I think it goes like that is, I don't even know what I'm doing here, but like one thing is going up and one is going, revenue is going up, and it's not, we're not just making more money, like not more money is just coming in. We're more efficient. We're keeping more of the money at the end of the day. So when we're paying our expenses out and payroll and all that stuff, we still have more money left over. And it's like, as we refine our processes and really dial in our project management and dial in our team and how we're hiring people and who we're partnering with, are we bringing on a contractor for this? When does that make sense? And when doesn't it make sense? We're really dialing in our own efficiency. So as I share that stuff, it's not to be braggadocious. It's really to say like, we're figuring out some things. So we're really doing the video production thing, and it's working. So hopefully, as you leave this episode, you're like, oh, okay, so he does that, because there probably are people on the internet that teach stuff to videographers. And I wonder, like, are they actually, like, what does their production look like? What does their team look like? What are the behind the scenes, like, with their business? Because you can be a great teacher. And I know people have said that, like, I remember seeing like some Facebook ads that we had, promoting some of the Studio Sherpas or our podcast or something like that. And people post and they say, like, what is the saying? It's like, if you teach, that means you can't do the work or something like that. Teachers are basically like the failed business people or something to that effect, whatever that saying is. And I just laugh. I'm like, you don't even know me. Like, you don't know the structure of my business. And I get like why it can seem like, why are you teaching me this stuff? Like, you're just trying to like take all my money and, swindle me. And that's not the case here. So anyway, that stuff makes me laugh. I'm like, you don't even know me. So, okay, I digress. A couple other big things that I did earlier this year. I joined a new mastermind with a bunch of other business owners. That has been really, really awesome for me. We went on a retreat a couple of months ago in California, which was incredible. And for me, I've been a part of masterminds in the past, and this one is a significant investment. So for me, it's just been a great step forward to invest in myself and in my business and to build community and to be around other people. I have access to these other people that have amazing businesses, are very successful financially, aren't working 40 hours. They're working less than 40 hours a week, and they're making a big impact in the world. Like, as I look at them, I'm like, that's what I want. I want more of that. And the best way for me or any of us to kind of get the thing that we want is to hang around with people that already have it or are on that same journey. So, yeah, and then another big win is we hosted the Onward Summit this year in person. That was amazing. There were 12 incredible humans that I got to hang out with for like 3 days. They came over to my house one night. I made them old fashions, and we haven't released the video yet, but this camera right here was rolling. I'm in my basement studio right now. And a number of people came up to this microphone, pretended to be me. There was a Spanish-speaking version of me. It was not me. So needless to say, that video I'm kind of holding for ransom. So if you're listening and you're one of the attendees, I'm going to blackmail you at some point. So that was just one of my greatest. I feel like one of my greatest achievements is like hosting this event and connecting with other people and inviting them to connect with each other. Because the video business can feel lonely. And being an entrepreneur can feel lonely. So for me to be a part of connecting other people with each other in the world of video is one of my greatest pleasures. So I was able to do that. And then later on this year, we launched, actually after the Onward Summit, we launched our Studio Sherpas Mastermind group. And that has been so good. It's been so rich. And that's been something that I wanted to do for a long time. And so finally, officially doing it felt great. Huge achievement. Okay. 3 mistakes that I made this year. Remember how I said we had our annual planning at the beginning of this year? We set the wrong goals. So as I look at the goals that we currently have, the ones that we made at the beginning of this year, I'm like, how did we walk away from that meeting thinking that those were the correct goals, that that's what we needed to focus on? We got through almost an entire year without really looking at what are the goals for this year. Every quarter we create rocks to help us get closer to our 1 year, to achieve the 1 year goals that we set. Now here's a couple of things that happened that sort of wrecked us. When we did our annual planning, in the middle of the planning session, I got a phone call from my creative director, John. And John said, "Hey, I know you guys are planning right now for the year. I just want you to know that I am going to be leaving Tell Studios and starting my own, production thing." And that was very unexpected because 2 months before that, I'd met with John, I met with Grant, even Tyler, and just, wanted to really figure out like, what are your, we just went through 2020 was just a train wreck, and we've made it through. We're kind of on the other, not really on the other side, but we're going to get to the other side. But what do you want to do? Like, what are your own personal goals? What are your professional goals? Is this business? Is this your heartbeat? Is this what you want to be a part of? Our 3 core values: humble, hungry, smart. Like, do you still feel like you have those as your own core values? And so, at that point, I think it was like December or something, John was all in. He's like, "Yep, totally all in." So I love him to death. We've actually hired him a whole bunch this year as a contractor. And it was probably one of the best things for us. Although at the time, it didn't feel like a gut punch, because I didn't feel like, "Oh, you betrayed me. You said that you were all in." And because I don't believe that either. I feel like our hearts change. I feel like God can do things to us when we're not expecting it, when we don't want it. And, however you, view God, whatever. But I feel like there are things that change inside of us with us just like, "Oh, I'm going this way. This is the way I'm supposed to go." And then all of a sudden, we get a curveball thrown at us. And sometimes it's for our betterment. Is that a word? Betterment? And I think in this case, I think it was a really good move for John. And it ended up being a really good move for us because it forced me to ask some really hard questions about our business. And, did we need a creative director with the direction that we wanted to go? And so I was able to, kind of wrestle through all of that at the beginning of the year. But the challenge is that we made these goals literally on the day of our business, 25% of our employees, one guy, was changing his direction, was leaving. And so that was kind of a misstep on our part. Really what we should have done is in a month later, we should have said okay, let's just revisit our 1 year and see where we're at, with, the dust settling, John moving on, and us trying to figure out what does work look like next. We didn't do that. The next best time for us to have done that would have been at our quarterly. And the way that our business is set up is we did not have a checkpoint with, we call them our EOS implementer. This is the EOS certified coach consultant that would come into the business. The same person that helped us plan our yearly would come in at each quarter and just say okay, how are we doing on our, 90-day goals here? Did we achieve them? And what are the next quarter goals to help us get closer to our 1 year goals? We didn't have that. We only have used our EOS implementer once a year for the planning session because we felt we know how to do our quarterly goals. And but the problem that we realized, and it wasn't even until 2 months ago, is that the goals that we had set out from the beginning of the year really weren't the kind of goals that were going to get us closer to our 1 year goal, especially knowing that the core of our business drastically changed with not having this key position. Not that key position was the thing that was going to drive our revenue or get us closer to our goals, but it just kind of knocked us off track. And we didn't realize that until we got almost to the end of this year. And we're like, oh my gosh, what would have been different this year had we had that check-in at quarter 2, January, February, March, end of March or beginning of April, to have somebody come alongside us and say, hey, you guys are off track. What's going on here? Is this still the most important thing for the year? And in the EOS world, they would say, I think you'd get to the half year point. So we get through 2 quarters where we could change our yearly goals in those first 2 quarters. But by the time you get to the halfway through the year, then it's just you're headed in that direction. You should have momentum and traction to get you to the end of the year. And for us, we could have gotten a lot more of the right things done had we, even by the half year point, at the end of the second quarter, if we would ask those same questions, are these the right goals? Are we heading in the right direction, or do we need to pivot? So those are kind of 2 in 1, two of the big mistakes that we made this year. We made the wrong goals, and then we didn't even check them until we got to the end of the year when we had an EOS implementer come in during our fourth quarter and help us look at and say whoa, you guys really got off track here. You're not going to achieve your 1 year goals. And are those even the goals that you want or need? And I'm looking at I think it was 2 of the 4 goals that we had set. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those are the last things that we need in our business right now. Those are nice to haves, but when we look at our 3-year picture, not important. And so it just hurt my heart to think we had one of our best years ever. So really grateful for that. But as we look at the other things that we wanted to do, the things that were kind of above and beyond, to think we didn't really even get close. So it felt like wasted time and wasted energy, doing things, kind of spinning our wheels on stuff that really didn't matter. And that's a crappy feeling. And then the other big mistake that we made. This is so hard to tell you all this stuff. Just kidding. It's good. It's therapeutic for me. We have been through 4 project managers since Tyler started in our operations role. And we we just kept pulling our hair out, like, why are we going through all these project managers? And um, we learned again, fourth quarter. Fourth quarter was like a quarter of enlightenment. There were a lot of things that got uncovered in the fourth quarter of this business, and the biggest thing that we realized is that the procedures that we had created for a project manager were not thorough. They were not clear. So I want to paint a picture here. When you're thinking about hiring any position, there's a period of onboarding. There's a period of like, getting them to a place where, they've got what they need, they can do their job. So not only were our processes not completely clear enough for our project manager to be totally successful on their own. So project managers would definitely succeed, but they'd always, they'd be asking me a question or Tyler a question or somebody else on the team a question, and that's fine. Like, that's expected. But we never created like hey, here are the the 5 things that every project manager that comes to work here needs to know. They need to know how to do this, and this. They need to know how to run these kinds of meetings, these kinds of phone calls with clients. This is how you actually run a project. This is what you do when you don't know what to do, and then these are just some other best practices. So those are kind of the buckets that we've since developed. And said, hey, day one, they should be able to start. We should give them enough that they could start and they could start a new project. And so now we've got this checklist. We're working on this checklist of like, these are the things that you've got to know, so that there's a clear like handoff, a clear like when they've gone through these 5 stages or these 5 steps, they know 80% of what needs to happen to do this job. So there's a clear end in sight. There's a clear like, okay, we've taught them these things. Now they might come back, with like this first section of like how to start a project, and they might have questions, and then we can work on figuring out how to answer those things. Maybe we need to update our procedures or just teach a little bit more, on these certain things that people keep asking questions about. So that not having that stuff in place really from the beginning was setting our project managers up to not succeed. So if you're a former project manager for us, again, I apologize. And that's just kind of how all those relationships ended was like, they're like, it's not you. And we're like, oh no, like, it's not us, or it's not you. It's just the whole thing of like, we're sorry that that it didn't work out. But nobody really could pinpoint it. It was just like, oh, I'm just, there's a lot. And it's like, oh yeah. But it was also unclear of like, what does success look like for this position? What does done look like? And so we've been able to spend a lot of time thinking through, what does done look like? Define done, define handoff. And even inside of a project, like what is like delivered to a client? Yes, that can be done. But like in other areas, in other jobs, and other parts of the work that you do, what does done look like? As you're creating goals, what does done look like? How will you know when you achieve that goal? Like if you want to, work less next year, what does that look like? Being very clear about, getting to the end of the year, not just saying like, oh yeah, I feel like I worked less, but really being able to measure. And kind of where this comes from is we have these weekly meetings called level 10s. And in those meetings, we go through our rocks. And the question is, are you on track or off track with your rocks? So in each quarter, I would have between 1 and 3 rocks that I'm working on. And somebody in the past, would ask me, hey, are you on or off track with your rocks? And I'd say, yeah, I feel like I'm on. I feel like I'm, things are going well. I'm kind of, making a little bit of progress on them. Or like, I didn't do anything in the last couple of weeks or something on them. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm off. But it was never like a clear, like I'm on or I'm off. Like you turn a light switch on and the light comes on, it's on. You turn it off, it's off. So it's very easy to know whether the light's on or off. And that's what we've had to do with our goals, even to say like, are you on track or off track? And the way that we've done that is, we've got our yearly goals, we've got our 90-day goals. We break in we've broken up our quarters into 13 weeks because there's 13 weeks in a quarter. And if one of my rocks is to launch a new website, I would break that up into 13 different, what are the 13 things that need to happen in order to launch a new website? 13 tasks, 13 things that I could say like, okay, that's done. So the first task would be, reach out to our web developer and have a chat about, do they have capacity? What do they need? So that, and I could say like, that's done. I reached out and had that conversation, or I didn't reach out. So then on week 2, we have this conversation of like, hey, are you on track or off track with your rocks? If I did task 1 for week 1, I'm on track. If I didn't, I'm off track. And it's not about like, how do you feel or like, how's it going? It's like, are you on track or off track? Because if I'm off track for a couple of weeks, then somebody on my team can just say like, hey, how can we help you? Because if this is important, you've deemed this as a rock for you for this quarter. So you're saying that this is important. So how can we help you get this done? Like, what's in the way of you getting this done? It's just it's such a great practice for helping get the right stuff done. Not just like any task, but the ones that you've said, like, this is part of our yearly goals, which is going to help us achieve our 3-year goal and, build the business of our dreams. So, yeah, I have some suggestions. I have some things and I'm doing these things myself. Going into 2022, things that I think are going to help make this our best year yet. The first one is directly related to this goal setting. It's like looking at the end of 2022, it's December 31st, and you're reflecting on the year. What do you want to have achieved? And again, like the feeling of having a good, thriving business, that's great. It's great to have that feeling. But then also like, well, what does that actually look like? What does that mean? Does that mean that you're only working 4 days a week? Does that mean that you're pulling in, $300,000 in revenue? Does that mean that you're pulling in $100,000 in profit? Like, what are the things that are tied to that you can clearly look and say, yeah, like we did that, versus like, yeah, I feel like we did that. So creating yearly goals that help move the needle of your business forward. So if you're just like, well, one of the goals that I have is to win an award, I would ask the question like, why? Why is that? Like, is that going to help you? What's your 3, like in 3 years, if you could wave a wand, and what are you doing? If you're like, well, I'm not in the business. I've got a team that's running it. Is winning an award going to help you get one step closer to that 3-year goal? So that's kind of how you want to be setting these goals. Like it's great to like win awards, but if it's not going to help you make more money, be more profitable, it's not going to help you, lead your team well, or it's not going to help your community, like there's just so many different things that, as you are asking that bigger question, what is it ultimately that I want, years down the road? Then you can look at some of the goals. Cause I think about some of the goals that I had back in the day, and it was like, become top 25, what was it called? Event DV filmmakers. And I made that list, but like it didn't do anything. All it did was it stroked my ego, and I didn't need that. That was not helpful. That's not helpful for anyone. I felt cool. So I guess like, yeah, that's good. But like big picture didn't help my business. People weren't booking us because of that. So setting goals. Are they the right goals? Will they get you closer to your 3 or your 10-year goals? And then the other challenge is not picking too many goals. I would suggest picking 1 to 2 goals for your company, for you yourself. If you have other people on your team, like maybe have them pick 1 or 2. Because here's the thing, like if you can achieve those 1 or 2 goals and you have time to spare, then like create another goal, like after you reach those 2. We tend to, I think as humans, say like, okay, like these are the 10 things that I want to accomplish above and beyond what we're already going to do. Because you're already doing work. You already have things going on. You already have, responsibilities. So, above and beyond, this is what we're talking about here. So what are the 1 or 2 things that can really move the needle in your business and get you closer to that, to the 1 year or to the 3-year goal that you really want? So don't overwhelm yourself with too many things. Otherwise, you're not going to get any of them done. But if you can settle on one or two and do those and actually complete those by the end of the year, you're going to be in an amazing place. And again, if you find out that, wow, I just breezed through those goals, I accomplished both of those goals in quarter one, then create more goals, create two more, create one more, whatever. Another powerful thing that the more I do it, the more I see its impact, is delegation, the power of delegation. I would consider, no matter where you're at in your business, as long as you're making money, hiring an assistant, pay somebody 15 to 25 bucks an hour, somebody that you know or somebody that you don't know, and having that person sort your emails, notify you of ones that are like, hey, this is a potential client, like we need to get a call, or having them have an initial call with somebody that's requesting a quote or something, and let them ask a short series of questions that help you identify, is this somebody that you should be having a 20-minute call with, an hour-long call with, instead of like you sorting through all of the things, have a form that they can fill out, or have an assistant actually, send them the form and talk to them and just touch base and say like, oh yeah, cool. And if it sounds like a project, then they can coordinate your calendar. They can set the meeting up. So you don't have to do any of that administrative stuff. If you're burning DVDs, what year is it? Is my first question. Or what year do you think it is? But if you're doing those mundane administrative tasks, things that suck the energy, the life from you, consider finding somebody that could work 2 hours or 5 hours a week and help you find more time for yourself to do the things that help generate revenue for your business. Another fun tool that I use with my assistants, and actually now with my team, is Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie recording app. So I open up the app, I click on the person I want to chat with, and I just start holding the button down, and I'll give them a message like, hey, I'm looking at the website, and the front page is all messed up. Can somebody take a look at that? And then that message goes to them. They can listen to it live if they open up the app and they get a notification that's like, Ryan's talking right now. Then they can respond. And what I love about it is in the past, I would send off an email and say like, type out the best I can. And I've got this, I just spent like 7 minutes typing out this long email, hoping that it makes sense, to where it's like, I can just like say something much quicker than I can try to like write an eloquent email that isn't confusing. Because if somebody's confused with what I just told them over Voxer, then I can tell them again in more detail. I can also listen at 2 or 3 or 4x, which is really great, especially for people that have to listen to me like drone on and on. So Voxer is super cool help. The last thing, so we've got goal setting, delegation, and then accountability. I think that in this work, especially if you're by yourself, if you don't have a team or somebody to be working with, having some kind of accountability is necessary. So having a community, like knowing that there are other people similar to you, like you are here, right? You are listening to the Grow Your Video Business podcast. Maybe you're plugged into the Grow Your Video Business Facebook group. Maybe you've been to Onward Summit. Maybe you've plugged into the Studio Sherpas ecosystem and you have friends. But if you haven't, if you're not asking questions, if you're not inside of the Facebook group and utilizing that group and asking questions like, hey, I just got asked if I could quote this job and I've never quoted a job for this kind of industry. What are they looking for? Or, hey, we just got a travel job to California and I don't know anybody that's out there. Would somebody be willing to assist? Camera op, DP, who's in California? If you're not doing that, the Studio Sherpas community is full of good-hearted people that are really talented. And we're just building this community to say hey, we want to be helpers. We want to be people that serve each other, because a rising tide raises all ships. Is that how you say that? And that's what my heartbeat is for this community. And shame on you if you're not utilizing it, because there's a lot of great people that want to help you and want to see your business succeed. We are doing the 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge. That's going to start in mid to late January. I forget the date. And that was, if you attended last time, there were hundreds and hundreds of people that joined the challenge that got to meet each other. And then there were a handful of people that upgraded to the VIP, and we had daily sessions in a smaller Zoom room and on a Facebook group where we all really got to know each other. And then some of those people came to the Onward Summit, and it was just this beautiful opportunity for people to be able to take some time away from the regular day-to-day to plan and think about, what is it that I want for my business, and what is the reset button that I might need to hit, and how can I achieve some of these goals, and to be able to bounce that off of other people. Another thing to consider is a mastermind. If you're not in a mastermind, if you've never been in a mastermind with other video business owners or other business owners, consider starting one, or consider joining one. We have our Studio Sherpas Mastermind that I mentioned earlier. We launched. If you want more information on that, you can go to studiosherpas.com/mastermind, and you can get more info, and there's an application process and all that. But I don't even want to pitch that hard. I just want to really pitch this idea. Next week's episode is with my friend Cliff Ravenscraft, and he is the masterminder. He's the mindset answer man. He leads multiple mastermind groups, and he's got some really, really helpful things to talk about and to share about being a part of a mastermind, and really how you can sharpen your saw and sharpen your business acumen, and really grow as a person and as a business owner by surrounding yourself with people that are committed to helping each other in a much smaller group setting. Lastly, if you're not signed up for the challenge, I'm going to change it up a little bit this year. Some of the topics that we're going to be going over are going to be a little bit different. It's a 5-day Grow Your Video Business Challenge. You can sign up. It's a free challenge. If you go to studiosherpas.com/challenge, and it's going to be 5 days. It's going to be Monday through Friday, and I'm going to be covering a topic each day, and then there will be an opportunity to join the VIP and to be a part of a smaller group where we'll have daily Q&As and hangout time together. Here's the thing. We're doing this in January to help you look at your entire year, to help make sure that you're making the right goals, that you're kind of creating the correct path for where it is that you want to go. So to do that by yourself, not recommended. You could hire an EOS implementer, somebody to come and help pick your brain. You could hire a coach, somebody to help really get inside of and try to pull out, what is it that you want to do? What do you want to achieve? If you could wave a magic wand, what does your work look like? What does your personal life look like? Having people in your life, inviting people that have your best interest in mind, and getting them to help you settle on okay, this year I want to be all about this. And then having those, quarterly check-ins. So important. Don't go through a whole year. I don't know how you're feeling as you look at this year. I don't know if you're feeling like, man, I did all the things that I wanted to do. This was amazing. Or if there's a party that's like, I didn't get nearly the amount of things done that I wanted to do. If that's you, then I want you to consider signing up to the totally free 5-day challenge and meeting some other people, hearing some dreams and goals, what other people are aspiring to. That might inspire you to dream bigger, think bigger, and then to ask the question well, how do you plan on getting there? And try to get inside people's head and say okay, I could see myself doing that. I could actually see myself. I wasn't sure. I never dreamed that big before, or if I did, I had no idea how to even get there. But here are other people that are doing the things that I want to do. That's who you need to be hanging out with. If you want to achieve more of your dreams and your goals, you need to hang out with people that are doing the same, that have big vision and are building out a plan and are making it happen. So sign up for the challenge. It's studiosherpas.com/challenge. I hope you have an incredible new year. Hope you had an awesome Christmas or holidays or whatever you celebrate. I hope you have time to rest and reflect and be grateful for what we do have, but also not be content. Be ready to say okay, how else can I contribute to this work, to this world? What gifts, strengths can I offer? Can I help other people? and what clients can we serve this year to really make a dent, to make a difference, because the work that we get to do, it is life-changing. You know, I mean, it is powerful medium. I'm sure that's why you're here, because you already know this, so I'm just preaching to the choir here, but I appreciate you, I love you, and I hope that 2022 is your best year ever, not just like making lots of money. I love that. I think that's great, and I think that can be very healthy, but I want so much more for you, and I hope you do too. That's it for today. That's it for the year. I'll see you next year. You know I was gonna go there, didn't you? All right, my friend. I will talk to you, like I said, next year. See ya.